Did you know the book of Joshua describes the only battle in history won by marching silently around a city for 6 days? Prepare for conquest and courage. Hey there. If these Bible stories are helping you grow in God's Word, please like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a new summary. Let's keep spreading the word, one story at a time. God bless you. Now let's continue. This is a story about Joshua leading Israel into the promised land after Moses' death. God commanded Joshua to be strong and courageous, promising his presence. Joshua sent 2 spies across the Jordan River into Jericho. They found refuge with Rahab, a woman who hid them from the king's men because she believed in their God. She secured a promise of safety for herself and her family when Israel attacked. The spies returned safely. Guided by the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, Israel crossed the miraculously parted Jordan River on dry ground, just as their parents crossed the Red Sea. They set up 12 stones from the riverbed as a memorial at Gilgal. God commanded all Israelite men to be circumcised, renewing the covenant sign neglected in the wilderness. They celebrated Passover in the land. The manna ceased, and they ate the produce of Canaan. Near Jericho, Joshua encountered the commander of the Lord's army. Joshua submitted, learning this was God's battle. God gave specific instructions for Jericho's conquest. For 6 days, the armed men marched silently around the city once a day, followed by priests blowing trumpets and others carrying the ark. On the 7th day, they marched 7 times. At Joshua's command, the people shouted, and the massive walls collapsed. Israel destroyed the city completely, devoted everything to God, but spared Rahab and her family as promised. Victory turned to defeat at Ai, a small town. Israel fled before Ai's men. Joshua cried out to God. God revealed sin was the cause. Someone had taken devoted items from Jericho. Through a process guided by God, Achan from the tribe of Judah was identified. He confessed to taking a beautiful robe, silver, and gold, hiding them in his tent. Achan, his family, and possessions were destroyed in the valley of Acre for breaking the covenant. God then gave Ai into Israel's hands. Joshua used an ambush. The city was captured and burned. The king of Ai was executed. Joshua built an altar on Mount Ebal and read all the law of Moses to the people, as commanded. Hearing of Israel's victories, the Gibeonites, inhabitants of a nearby city, resorted to deception. They disguised themselves as travelers from a distant land, wearing old clothes and carrying moldy bread. They approached Israel at Gilgal, seeking a treaty. Joshua and the leaders, failing to consult God, made a peace treaty with them. 3 days later, they discovered Gibeon was nearby. Bound by their oath, the leaders spared Gibeon, but made the inhabitants woodcutters and water carriers for the congregation and the altar. 5 Amorite kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon allied against Gibeon for making peace with Israel. Gibeon appealed to Joshua for help. Joshua marched his army all night from Gilgal. God assured Joshua of victory. The Lord threw the Amorite armies into confusion before Israel. A great hailstorm killed more enemies than the swords of Israel. Joshua, witnessing the day was too short for complete victory, commanded the sun and moon to stand still. The sun stopped in the middle of the sky for about a full day, a unique day in history. The 5 kings hid in a cave at Makkedah. Joshua had them trapped and later executed. Joshua then led campaigns throughout southern Canaan, conquering key cities like Makkedah, Libnah, Lachish, Eglon, Hebron, and Debir. A northern coalition, led by Jabin king of Hazor, gathered many kings with vast armies and chariots. Joshua and his forces surprised them at the waters of Merom. God gave Israel victory again. Hazor was captured and burned. Joshua waged war for a long time, defeating kings throughout the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes. Much land remained unconquered, inhabited by various peoples, but the major military threats were subdued. The land was then divided among the tribes by lot at Shiloh, as God commanded through Moses. Caleb, Joshua's fellow spy from 40 years prior, received Hebron as his inheritance due to his faithfulness. The tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh received their inheritance east of the Jordan, as Moses had allotted, and returned home after helping their brothers conquer the west. Joshua allocated cities of refuge throughout the land, as God instructed, for those who killed accidentally. The Levites received towns and pasturelands within the territories of the other tribes. After all this, with the land at relative rest from war, Joshua summoned all Israel. He reminded them of God's mighty acts, from Abraham to their own conquest. He urged them to fear the Lord, serve him faithfully, and put away the gods their ancestors served beyond the Euphrates and in Egypt. Joshua declared his own commitment, "But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." The people vowed to serve the Lord. Joshua made a covenant with them that day at Shechem, setting up a large stone as a witness. Joshua died at 110 and was buried. The bones of Joseph, brought from Egypt, were buried at Shechem. Eleazar the high priest also died. The book closes noting Israel served the Lord throughout Joshua's lifetime and the lifetime of the elders who outlived him. The book of Joshua powerfully demonstrates God's unwavering faithfulness in fulfilling his promises. He fought for Israel, granting miraculous victories when they obeyed. Yet, sin like Achan's brought swift consequence, showing God's holiness. Joshua's repeated calls for courage rooted in God's presence, and his final challenge at Shechem highlight the constant choice: serve the Lord wholeheartedly or follow other gods. His declaration, "As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord," remains a timeless model of covenantal commitment. God's promises are sure, but our faithful obedience is the pathway to experiencing his blessing and victory in the land he gives us. Thank you for listening through. If you enjoyed this summary, please hit that like button and leave us a comment on where you're listening from.